everybody, welcome to this episode of Indie Spotlight. I'm Brian.
I'm Leah Stalker.
I am Clint, and in addition to talking about comics this go-around, we're probably going to bring up the fact that Leah has a Marlboro trucker hat hanging above her mask now.
I really need to get a green screen so that I've said it before, but it's becoming even more true. The Marlboro hat is because I think that we've talked about it on air before, but I am fully transforming it into a divorced single dad for some reason, style-wise. Previously, Clint, at events you've seen me, and I do like very goth, very like mesh shirts and plaid skirts, and now I'm just doing black jeans, band shirts, chain wallet, and a Marlboro hat. The child support's in the mail.
I've been working on that Reno, got them paints and stains. Ship lapping like a boss, you can call me Chip Gaines. My window panes thermal treated for efficiency. They'll pay for themselves by 2043.
Child support's in the mail. What did you say I'm supposed to say? My lifestyle is not your fashion?
My culture is not your costume.
Yeah, that's right. That sounds better.
That's what everyone says around Halloween when you wear stuff that you're not supposed to wear, so.
What, do you think this is a fucking costume? This is a fucking way of life.
I'll come hang out with you at the Nugget and take notes so I can fully immerse myself.
Grab a paintbrush.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of paintbrushes or artwork, what do we cover in this episode? Anybody got any ideas?
We're covering comics, and thanks to Asylum Press, who sent all three of us a giant pack of free comics to read through, go over, and discuss in this episode of Indie Spotlight. So we're back in the comic world, and I am thrilled because Asylum Press focuses on horror-themed comics, and it's a little bit all over the place, and we got a lot of cool stuff. I think we each kind of picked one from the pack we were sent. I'm interested to hear what you guys picked, because there was a lot.
There was a lot. I was completely I think I even mentioned on a previous episode, but I was so delighted to get this package. I was imagining just like a small handful, and they sent us 10 comics of all different titles. And that's the great part of it, is that everything had different art and different themes. And so we always talk about how we all run the spectrum of horror. And I felt like there was something for everyone in this package. So it was really easy when Clint picked out his. No one was like, oh, that's what I was going to. No, because I picked something else out. Brian picked something else. There was something for everyone in this package. So Asylum Press is holding it down for everyone.
Kind of like the last episode of Indie Spotlight, where we each covered an indie musical artist. Yeah, this time you're going to hear, although it's all horror themed, you're going to hear our individual styles and tastes. So, Brian, I'm curious to hear what you chose.
So before I tell you what I chose, I'm going to give you a little about us for Asylum Press. You can check them out at asylumpress.com. And on their website, it says, Asylum Press is a publishing company that produces premium comic books and graphic novels within the horror, science fiction, and action genres. We then maximize the value of these branded properties by extending them across multiple media platforms, including movies, TV, and video games, often using transmedia storytelling techniques and social networking to reach a much broader audience than traditional comic book publishers. And it goes on to say original character-driven story, cinematic artwork by the top creators. I mean, it's just never ending. I was clicking on their website and I just kept clicking, and then I'd click something else and I'd find something else. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I just kept going and going and going. And I'm not a comic book person. I enjoy comic books when I've sat down and read them. I'm not a reader. That's probably my first problem, is I do not enjoy reading. I'd much rather watch a movie. I just don't feel like I have time just to sit down and maybe relax. And last night I'd watched a couple movies. I'd done a couple lawns. I'd taken a shower. I was like, I'm ready for bed, but I need to read this comic. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll save it for the morning. I sit down at my desk and I get to the first page. I get to the second page and the third page and the fourth page. And I'm just like, okay, I got to read the whole thing now. And I picked the Nosferatu special of Vampire Macabre. And you open it up and there's 3 different stories in here. Nosfera, I don't even know how to say that. She's the queen of the vampires. And then you get Zephyra, or the Night Killer, and The Crypt. Frank Forti is the writer for most of these. There's a story, The Crypt is by Tim Virgil, but the script is by Frank. Artwork by Maura Mike. Edna Mina, Tim Vigil. Just beautiful, beautiful artwork and great storytelling.
Frank is the publisher of Asylum Press. I just want to toss that in there. One thing, and then I'll stop trampling on your comic part. And that is, I thought it was interesting. We talked about how we each chose something that kind of was going to be more our style. But it's interesting that Brian and I both wound up choosing, and Leah, I don't know what you chose, but Brian and I both chose what wound up being anthology shorts.
I picked, what's an anthology short?
So it's got 3 different stories in the book.
Okay. Did pick Fearless Dawn shorts. So mine was 6 different little short things. But I don't know if an anthology pieces together or it's individual shorts.
Typically, anthologies are different stories. Like Creepshow is an anthology. It's different stories. It's kind of bound together by the creep and the comic book, for example.
Some anthologies have a wraparound story that ties them all together, and some don't. Like Creepshow is loosely tied together. But I think one of the other cool parts is you get to the end of the comic, and it's got Franken horror, enamel pins, stickers, creepy cartoons. Oh, this is like the coolest part. I don't know what's on the back of your comics, but
I get to the back of this one, and it's a bunch of half-naked demon women with little naughty boxes over their naughty parts. It does. It's a black box that says naughty.
Which one was that one so I can look it up real quick? No, but I have...
Well, the one is Vampire Macabre, but it's a Halloween special. So it's the one that Brian chose, but a different one on the very back page. It's Asylum Press Naughty Covers.
Oh.
If you go to their website, they have where you can buy issues that have naked people in them. They're naughty issues. I mean, they have enamel pins and stickers and artwork and just all kinds of cool horror-related stuff. And I think you had said at one point, Clint, there was a Kickstarter that you were going to...
So last year, back when I was still doing Spill the Guts all the time, I reported on a Kickstarter for, it was a project called Chopper, which, with it not being right in front of me, it was sort of a blend of the Headless Horseman and Ghost Rider, but it was more Headless Horseman, and it was basically the Headless Horseman if he was a biker. And there was a Kickstarter for that, and I never wound up supporting it other than sharing and covering it on the news. I didn't, financially support it, but I see that it got picked up and it is now being published through Asylum Press.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's a modern day reimagining of the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow fame. And yeah, it's on their website. And you can buy it for $4 or for the printed book or $1.99 for the digital. And they even have a YouTube trailer for the comic.
I remember with that comic, one of the perks on the Kickstarter was you could have your likeness drawn in as one of the murdered characters or something like that, which I think that's the one I almost kicked some money in on. I thought that would have been cool, but I just never did.
Yeah, but mine has 3 different stories. It has the vampire queen, and then it has a vampire that's being hunted, who's seeking revenge, and then it has a vampire that is hungry and eats a cat.
Oh.
And she talks about that. She talks about it as when I was alive, I would have never done this, but if I don't eat this cat, I won't live until morning.
Justice for Stella.
Justice for Stella. It always comes back to Stella. It always comes back to Darius every single time. But I do like that. That's, my initial reaction is to be like, oh, Kitty. But I do like the insight that she discusses it. She talks about why she does it. And I mean, they're monsters, they're vampires, it's the mentality of why. And that is an interesting concept of knowing my human self wouldn't do this, but now that I'm this monster, I like that. I will admit I just kind of stuck to reading the one that I had read and flipping through the other Fearless Dawn, but this entire pile is getting read shortly, 100%.
Well, and I'm an idiot. I'm not a comic book person, so there was like green boxes. I'm like, who is that talking? Is that her talking to herself? And I figured out it was the cat. So if you're a comic book person, you would figure that out.
Oh...
That's what I think is interesting, and I was waiting for this discussion because, again, we haven't, besides telling each other which one we were going to cover, which actually Leah never said, I don't think. I was interested to see what we discovered from all of these, and it sounds like all of these comics that we got from Asylum Press are very story-driven, a little on the mature side, not like they couldn't be read by a teenager or even, a preteen, but that they all have really good stories with them. They're not just kind of some fluff bullshit. And I think that's really cool too, because it sounds like the stories are as quality as the spectrum of artwork that was presented to us as well.
Back in the day, I was a comic reader, and I had mentioned it before that I would pick up books based on artwork, and sometimes that artwork was solid, but the story could not back it up at all. So I completely second what Clint just said, that these are not just the artwork is completely eye-catching, but there is so much to sink your teeth into when it comes to the story, the reading, the humor, and all that goodness. I completely agree with that.
Pun intended, because Brian was covering vampires. Sink your teeth into.
Sink your teeth into it.
Wah, wah, wah.
That was unintentional, but I'm funny, I guess. Maybe. Never mind.
Divorced dads are usually pretty funny.
Divorced dad.
You're totally embracing the lifestyle.
That was totally a divorced dad joke. Yes. So
Dad jokes rule.
I agree. So I covered Fearless Dawn. There was 5 Fearless Dawn comics, but I went for the shorts one shot. The artwork off the bat was just all of the artwork for all of them was really eye-catching. There was also one that was a swimsuit edition, and that one was very tempting to grab. It just had a bunch of scantily clad women on the front. I grabbed the shorts because I was like, oh, maybe this will give me a little insight into a couple stories. And this one had 6 stories in it. The thing that I really loved about the stories in here is, so we had Run. She was running from stuff repeatedly. Devil's Den was based in historical fact. It was based on history. It talked about July 2nd, 1863, 5,000 Confederate soldiers going up against 2,400 Union Army regular men and all the people that died. There were stories that were mixed in there that were based on history. Another one was Mary Dillinger that was about Jack the Ripper. So I loved all of that. I'm getting ahead of myself getting into the story because, like we said, it does have so much story to back it up. But what really caught my eye about Fearless Dawn, this is so Tank Girl coded, inspired, based right away. And I always say the 3 movies when I was a young teenager growing up, I watched Clueless, The Craft, and Tank Girl on repeat, and those 3 movies completely have made up my personality. I was a huge fan of Tank Girl growing up, more so the movie than the comics, because the comics could be a little bit intimidating. There were so many. Anything that's Tank Girl coded, I'm here for it. Fearless Dawn, in the shorts, I don't get to figure out, where Fearless Dawn came from, her backstory, anything like that. I'm kind of just thrown into the middle of it. Even just not knowing anything about the characters, still fabulous, still hilarious, still amazing. I really, really enjoyed this one. And the art kind of fluctuated between being very in depth, but then it also had this weird Archie vibe to it. It was a little bit more simplistic in some instances. I just really was drawn to this one. There's a lot of things about it that made I'm going to be reading this entire stack for sure.
I mean, you love Tank Girl, a friend of the show, who's been a guest a couple times on the I Like It Spooky Horror podcast. Justin Beam and Reverend Entertainment did all the special features for the Tank Girl release that came out not too long ago.
I didn't realize that. That's amazing.
I've always been a fan of Lori Petty.
She's on TikTok, and she's still fabulous and amazing. I love her.
She was at a con we were at. I don't remember which one. We go to so many all the time anymore. They all kind of blend, and it was one of those like celeb crushes where I was like, I'm not going to go over and talk to her. What the fuck am I going to say anyway? You know what I mean? So I just stayed away. So I just kind of watched from afar like a stalker. Tossed on my Marlboro trucker hat, twirled my chain, and thought maybe that will bring her in.
My culture is not your costume.
It's a fucking way of life.
But this is definitely a comic that, like I said, sometimes I would go into comic book stores. I would just go based on art. This is something that I would definitely do. And you know what I totally missed is the fact that this was written and illustrated by Steve Mannion. I'm going to say it's Mannion. One of the other things that I saw in this is not just the Tank Girl inspiration. But the way that there were certain sidebars in there and little odd jokes here and there, it kind of felt like maybe he read Johnny the Homicidal Maniac when he was younger. It kind of echoed that a lot to me. So I just loved Fearless Dawn because it felt like it was very unique. It was very much its own thing, but at the same time, it gave fabulous nods to all these other comic book worlds and universes. I really liked it. That's all I can say. I mean, I did little summaries of all of the stories, but you really just got to pick it up and check it out for yourself. I will say one of the funniest ones was General Mud, where it was this battlefield of mud, and it was talking about how the weapons would get gunked up and people would try to charge each other to use their bayonets, but then you didn't even know who you're supposed to fight because everyone's covered in mud, and this alien arrives and they're like, look at that superior being. And then he trips and he falls in the mud and everyone just makes fun of him and kicks his ass. And that felt very true to something that would happen in the world today. Everyone would just be like, fuck you, alien, and just punch him.
Wow, you talk about me psychoanalyzing shit. And you're like, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of the muddy alien general who gets his ass kicked. I can see that happening because that's just the culture we live in. Wow.
I can see myself tripping in mud and getting my ass beat. That's where we're at. Everyone's upset these days. Everyone's just looking for someone to make fun of and kick their ass. Oh, this got deep real fast. Never mind. Back to the comics. There is, like I said, the swimsuit edition, and it's literally, this one made me pause because it was $9.99 compared to the $3.99 price tags of others, but this is actually just a gorgeous art book. It's literally just pages of beautiful art of these lovely ladies.
Riley, look at this one, and she's just like, oops.
Whoopsie-doodle, my titties are out. I love that I said swimsuit edition and everyone instantly on camera just turned and started shuffling through their pile of books. And they're like, where? But it's gorgeous art. It's, oh, see?
No, I like this. This outfit's cute.
Which one is it?
Oh, hold on.
The art is wonderful, though. I can't express that enough. Here's another fun Leah fact. So I did draw a lot when I was, let me see. Yes. Very cute. Oh, and that's the one that I have it open to.
I would totally wear that.
The fun Leah fact is that I taught myself to draw when I was younger, and I drew a lot. And all I usually drew was girls in panties. That was my thing. I just really liked drawing naked girls, but I would put them in cute fishnets and underwear and things like that. So this resonates with me on a whole different level.
I got kicked off the bus when I was in grade school and Catholic school for drawing naked women.
I never got kicked out of anywhere, but I also didn't. Where did you draw her? That's the question.
I was on the bus.
Like, did you draw it on the back of a seat?
Oh, no. It was all for my
okay.
It was all for my personal collection. I've been fucked up for a while.
I'm not going to give everyone that for free. That's for me.
Right.
Fair enough. Okay. No, I never, but I don't think I showed my artwork to people. People couldn't see it to get me in trouble. But yeah, I have all my artwork saved. So I just have folders upon folders of girls in panties that I drew as a teenager. Totally a normal thing for everyone. Who's next?
Right. No, you know what's cool is it just shows that there are other artists out there that probably did the same thing. That's why you were drawn to Fearless Dawn.
Judge a book by its cover. It's going to work out okay. But I think it was technically just trying to draw anatomy and practicing anatomy.
You can take that mature adult answer and shove that bullshit right up your ass, you liar.
On this episode of Leah and Clint's therapy sessions, we will be talking about artwork as a child.
Ink blots comes next. What do you see?
Who knew that drawing two circles together with two dots in the middle would cause so much problems? So many problems. We're all fucked up here. So we're going to go on to mine. And I chose the Asylum, which is where Brian used to be. And I should probably be committed. And it sounds like Leah as well. The Asylum of Horrors one-shot Halloween special. And it wound up being an anthology. And I tell you what, I actually love one-shots because they're self-contained. So you can pick up what interests you without having to commit yourself to a story or a series or have to go to like the beginning of a series to figure out what's going on if you came in late. The cover of this one also drew me in because it consists of kind of realistic rendered artwork. And the woman on the cover, she has a cross with a circle branding on her chest that was much like the cult branding in Older Gods, which is the Lovecraftian movie we covered on episode 3 of Indie Spotlight. So you take the Halloween special, you take the branding, you take the beautiful artwork, the beautiful woman on the cover, the word asylum, and I was, okay, this is where I'm going.
I'm going to be really honest that you were the first person who sent the comic that you were going to do. And the moment you sent it, I was like, of course, absolutely. It was completely a Clint thing. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, this completely right off the bat looked just like something that you'd love.
Thank you for psychoanalyzing me. So anyway, my stories, no, I'm just fucking with you. There were 4 stories in this. All of them were shorts. There was Wolves, Cicada, Dead Ops, and The Body. And I did do little synopsis. I'm just going to kind of run through them quick. Wolves was, and I'm doing this because I want to show the difference in stories. Although everything Asylum Press offers is in the horror world, it's not tied to one thing. Just this one shot alone had 4 very different stories in it. Wolves was set in medieval times, and a king employs a specialist to kill a wolf beast, wreaking death and havoc on the king's men and land. The hunter discovers after encountering a witch in the woods that the wolf is the 7th son of the king and is the last living heir to the throne, and that the king has systematically been killing the other monstrous offspring. So you had some 7th son of a 7th son stuff in there as well, reference, which I started reading that book a long time ago and I never finished, but Iron Maiden does a really cool song. After that, it went to Cicada, which was more political commentary, and it was on the elite using up the world's resources, then being cryogenically frozen in an undisclosed location to be brought back when the famine ends and when cures could be found for their individual health issues. But while they're frozen, it kind of flash forwards a little bit, and a clan of starving survivors, it finds in the underground facility where the frozen rich, I can't talk today, where the frozen rich are stored. It's such a good story. It's got me tongue-tied. And this clan harvests the elite and eat them for food.
Eat the rich.
Come on, baby, eat the rich, but the bite of the son of a bitch. Don't listen, don't you give me no switch. Come on, baby, and eat the rich. Come on, baby, and eat the rich.
You eat the rich, that's right. That one, off the bat, the foreshadowing was pretty heavy, so I had an idea what was going to happen, and I was right, but it was still a fun payoff at the end, the way they did it. Dead Ops was probably my least favorite and the shortest. It was just about a rescue team consisting of one soldier going into this science lab that had been overridden by a zombie virus. He was there to, grab survivors, but no one had survived. And you find out at the end when he makes it back out to meet the helicopter of the extraction team that he has now become a zombie. And the last one was really cool because it was an Italian story, and it's called The Body. It was about a woman whose daughter is known as the Strega, which is Italian for witch. People bring their diseased or disfigured family members, and they extract the disease or the disfigurement from them, and it's just kind of this mystery. So years later, after this young boy had this facial disfigurement removed from him by the Strega, he can't get it out of his head, so he goes back to kind of unravel the mystery of what do they do with the diseases and how do they do this. And he remembers the smell of when he was there as a young boy, and it was very pungent and overpowering. And he finds out that the old woman, her daughter, who was quote unquote the Strega, was actually just some prisoner. The old woman's actually the Strega. She's the witch, and she just imprisons people. That's how she makes her money. And then so the people she imprisons take on all these diseases and just kind of live as these monstrous beings shackled up in a room, suffering all these diseases. And then the boy becomes the new unwilling prisoner of the Strega.
Oh, wow.
And what's neat too is we kind of already touched on all these offerings from Asylum Press. There's a gambit of artistic styles, but just in the 4 stories in my book alone, there was everything from the traditional line art to the Photoshop kind of comic filters to pixelated artwork renderings and on and on. It's just amazing offerings.
That was the thing that, as you were explaining that, I was kind of looking at the front cover, because on mine, had all been written and illustrated by the same person, but yours was, every story was written by a different person and illustrated by a different person. I see some of the names are recurring, but that's awesome to just have a one shot and have so much
Diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And especially that comic is only $3.99. I'm a cheap person, so that's my thing, is I want the most bang for my buck. Thankfully, Asylum Press sent us these. Thank you for sending them to us for free. If I was a person where I'm buying these, yeah, $3.99 for 4 different stories, for 4 different art styles and all that, that's a great bang for your buck.
What bang for the buck you're talking about? That took me about a half hour. I had a couple distractions, kids walking in and out of the rooms. I think I actually went and smoked a cigarette halfway through. But I mean, so that was like a half hour or so of entertainment, and they were all really good stories. I didn't really care for the Dead Ops one. All of the stories were great and made you go, oh, wow, like none of it was, wow, this sucked. You know, they were all great stories, and everybody knows I'm story driven, so I enjoyed it very much.
Well, and there's one that we got in the package that we didn't talk about, Warlash. Cold Metal Mayhem, and it's I got a one shot here. It's an anthology, and I didn't notice it, and maybe you guys didn't either, but I open it up and it says all the artists, all the stories, all the illustrators and writers and the variant cover person, and then Kickstarter and Indiegogo backers. So if you've given any money to them, your name is here somewhere in this list of people. So right on the inside of the cover.
Oh, I see it now.
Immortalized in the pages of offerings from Asylum Press. It's probably the same with that Chopper project also.
And I mean, this one, I'm just flipping through this one, a guy with a big gun and a tail like a scorpion that's putting it through this guy's neck. More cool artwork.
If you go over to asylumpress.com, you can click on titles, and I'll just read through them all. It shows, again, they're all horror, but they're very diverse. So you have Adversary, Asylum of Horrors, Beyond Doomsday, Black Powder, Chopper, Detox. I think it's DTOX, Detox. Eek, which that one I want to check out because Eek to me kind of just looks like it's going to be a Tales from the Crypt type thing. Farmhouse, Fearless Dawn, Hairbutt the Hippo. That looks like it's fun. Heavy Metal, Hex of the Wicked Witch, Insidious Tales, Rough House, Satan, Skinwalker, Strange Battle Tales, Strange Fairy Tales, almost done, Strange Prairie Tales, Undead Evil, Vampire Macabre, Vampire Versus, Vampires, Warlash, and Zombie Terrors. That is a lot of titles with all the great artwork, all the stories. I have a feeling that they kind of, Asylum Press has a certain quality that they like to stick to. So if you're looking for a new comic, you're in the horror world, click over to asylumpress.com, go through their titles. I guarantee there's going to be something there for you.
I completely agree with that. It seems like, even though, and we keep talking about it, all of these comics that we were sent are so very diverse. There's something for everyone. I completely agree with Clint that if you see that Asylum Press tag on a comic, just know it's going to be quality. It might have varying art styles, story styles, all that sort of stuff. We can guarantee it's going to be quality from what we've seen from this selection.
There's a list of titles too. I'm here on their website right now, and if you click on webcomics, it says check us out on Webtoon. And I'm not going to go through this whole list, but there is another list. Some of the titles I just read off. A couple here look different, like Billy Boy, Farmhouse, Infinite Kid, and these are all Webtoon webcomics. I didn't know webcomics was a thing.
Webcomics were a thing that I was really obsessed with back in the day. I had all of my bookmarks of webcomics that I would check out daily. I actually use the app Webtoon. There are a couple comics on there that I read regularly. If you like comics and you want access to free comics, go check out Webtoon. Because I wasn't expecting to plug that, but that is a really great app. And especially if they have their comics on there, I 100% when we're done recording this, I'm going on to Webtoon and you can add to favorites. So I'm adding all of those comics to my favorites and checking them out.
Yeah, I see 7. There's 7 different titles, and it says check us out on Webtoon. And then as you scroll down, it says check us out on Tapas, Tapas. I'm assuming it's similar to Webtoon, just based off how the information's provided here.
Webtoon is cool just in the fact that, like I said, it's free. The only thing that you would ever pay for on that is if you want early access to comics, because they'll put them out usually on a weekly or whatever their schedule is. So you can sit there and just wait for it to be released. Some people can't wait, so they'll pay for that. But Webtoon, if you're a comic person, I do highly recommend that, especially as a way to find not just Asylum Press, but other indie artists. There's one on there that I read called what is it called? It's called Olympus. Fuck. It's about Hades and Persephone. And this girl started her comic on there, and now it's a book that's printed everywhere. It's available everywhere. So it just goes to show that go find these indie artists, go find these people who are doing it for the love of the game, because you don't know when the next jewel in the rough is going to be found.
You don't know when the next comic is going to be made into a movie. It sounds like they have some really great stories that Hollywood will probably be pulling at some point and saying, oh, we want to make that into a movie, because it's what happens.
I want a Fearless Dawn movie. I love her style. She's so adorable.
Well, you're talking about the comic and the crossover in the movies. So Frank Fort, who is the publisher at Asylum Press, he is an accomplished storyboard artist and comic book artist, but also his film and TV credits include Lovecraft Country, Fantasy Island, Solar Opposite, Three Below, Tales of Arcadia, Insidious: The Last Key, Bob's Burgers, Despicable Me 2, Lego, The Guardians of the Galaxy, Lego Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Out. There's some Marvel stuff in there. I could go on and on. It looks like on top of, he's already got that infused with what he does. It's like kind of like Asylum Press is kind of like the whole package.
I agree with that. I didn't even realize all of that was under their belt. I just was like, they're fabulous comics. Asylum Press seems cool. But yeah, after a little bit more digging, it sounds like there's a lot more going on behind the scenes of talent, all of accomplishments.
So it sounds like to me he does this other stuff to help pay for Asylum Press, or he does that so that he can kind of do this on the side.
I don't know how he sets his business up, but yeah.
I didn't hear any horror in any of that. So maybe this is kind of like, I do this, but I love horror, so that hopefully someday I can do.
There was some with Insidious, The Last Key, and the Lovecraft Country. But yeah, a lot of it was Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars, superhero stuff, which is whenever not anymore. It used to be when I think about comics, that's what I would think about. Star Wars, Superman, all that stuff. But it's just, there's this whole world of shit that if you're not a superhero fan and you want to get into some great stories, some creepy shit, check out Asylum Press and your local comic shop, which has a slew of great titles all the time. I've said before, you go in there and you can just be overwhelmed at all the colors jumping at you from the shelves.
And if you go into your local comic shop and they don't have stuff from Asylum Press, walk up to the counter and say, hey, I saw this artwork and I love these stories. Any chance you could get some of that in the store and I'll buy some?
That's a really good point for anyone who's not a comic book regular or going to your local comic book store. Talk to the people behind the counter. They will absolutely either A, if you don't know what you're looking for, they will have a ton of recommendations. We all love talking about our passions. If you ask someone, hey, I kind of like this stuff, do you have any recommendations? They'll probably go off with a bunch of things that you can buy. But also, they want to know what you want to read. They want to get those things in so that other people will come in and find them. So go in and talk to the people behind the counter. It's not like a Target or anything like that. They want to hear what you have to say if you have certain interests. So if they don't have Asylum Press, like Brian said, go ask them about it and go ask them what else they read.
I've been to one comic shop. I'm not going to name it. I was in there and I'm looking around and I realized, okay, they don't really do a whole lot with horror, and that's fine. They were more D&D and superhero. But I was looking for a specific horror themed comic, and I remember I went to the person behind the counter and I was like, I don't see a lot of horror in here. Do you have this? And they just went, no. And that was the end of the conversation. They weren't dicks.
Oh.
But it was just like, That's not what they were into, but Leah is absolutely, that was the only one out of many. Leah's absolutely right. Comic shops are typically like us on this podcast. We're fans of a lot of things. It all ties in together. And, we could talk to you about comics. We could talk to you about musicians. We could talk to you about whatever crap that Leah likes, like dolls, or we could talk to you about really good movies like Night of the Creeps, anything. That was funny. Talking about comic shops, again, some other stuff from asylumpress.com is if you go to the About Us section, you can click on retailers, and it breaks down some information about Diamond Comic distributors handle Asylum Press stuff in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. It gives you 3 different things to click on where if you're a retailer, you can get with the distributors to get these comics in your shop if you don't already have them, which I would be surprised if you do not.
Since we're talking about distributors, we have a distributor, the PFPN, so we should hear from them, right?
Makes sense to me.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, we don't want to lose our distribution. We got in trouble on the main episode, last episode, so we got to get back in their good graces, right?
We got in trouble. What did we do? What did I do?
Remember, we're going to have some meetings.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, that's stressful.
Well, we kind of set up the meeting and then we delegated who was going to be hosting it.
Well, then that's different.
We're trying to be adults here and live within a corporate structure, okay?
Gross.
Hi, Leah. How's the weather? Did you read the report? Wow,
Exactly.
The look on her face.
I read a comic. I didn't read anything else. I'm so sorry.
We covered a movie called Office Uprising that's about corporation stuff, and we
Oh.
kind of worked it into the thing that we're like, oh, we're going to be in trouble for this. We're going to have a meeting. It should have been an email.
Great movie. Go over to Tubi and check it out for free. But even better episode. Okay, no, the episode's not better than the movie, but you should go over to wherever you listen to your podcast, subscribe to the Elegant Spooky Horror Podcast, and listen to that episode after you listen to our friends from the PFPN.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
So now that we've heard from our podcast network, I mean, we don't normally rate indie spotlight stuff, but Asylum Press to me is a 10 out of 10. I don't know if you guys have any more to say, but I'm definitely going to check out some more of their comics, some of the YouTube videos, maybe buy some enamel pins, some stickers. I had a blast with this one.
No, I agree that it was a 10 out of 10. Like I said, I want to read all the Fearless Dawn that I had. I'm actually going to read all the other ones, though, too. You guys especially sold me on the Asylum of Horrors Halloween special and the Vampire Macabre. I can't wait to read all of those. I'm also going to go check them out on Webtoon, so I'm going to be really honest. Anything that I can get for free, I'm really here for it. I'm broke. So the fact that they offer things for people who maybe can't go out and don't have the means right now to go out and buy a bunch of comics, go to Webtoons. Go check them out on there. That's completely fine. So there's something for everyone. 10 out of 10. I love that.
There's another place you can check out some free stuff from Asylum Press. And again, if you go to their website, you can click on videos. And on YouTube, they have just random trailers, teaser trailers for Fearless Dawn, for a Stranger Things mashup of Asylum Press, for Warlash. I could go on and on. And I think that's kind of neat, too, to where you could sit here and listen to us talk about it, or you can go and kind of see and hear a little bit for yourself the tone of the different things that they offer. So again, I am in the comic world, but I'm not heavily invested in the comic world. I've never come across that to where you can go watch a YouTube trailer of this issue or this series. So I think that's pretty neat. I'm going to go on record, though. I can't rate. And I'll tell you why, because I enjoyed everything that I saw. I am not confident enough in my understanding of the comic world. And I know that there is so much out there, so much diversity in the comic world, that I just don't feel as confident as I do in films. I'm not as well versed as I am in the world of film and just horror in general. So, but I will say that I highly recommend you check out Asylum Press. Go to asylumpress.com. And it's not just because they sent us free comics, because I've actually almost backed some of their stuff about a year ago and run across them before, and they've caught my eye. So this has been a really nice treat to kind of bring that journey full circle and cover them and really dive into some stuff that they offer.
I know you liked it because you finished it.
The bar is on the floor. The bar is in hell. As long as Clint finished it, then that's the thumbs up.
That's funny.
That's completely valid. Like, I'm not invalidating you saying that you're not fully comfortable with the comic stuff. And I know that there might be some people out there. I'm not, even me as someone who's read comics for a long time, I don't consider myself a comic person, because I think that comic people, especially like the superhero, Wolverine, X-Men, all that, like they're very, very in depth with it. Asylum Press is, you can be casual. You can just say, I like it. I like the art. I like the story, all that. And just to double back real quick, how you kept talking about asylumpress.com and how they were on YouTube and all that. And they also are on TikTok, I noticed. When it mentions their socials, they have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And I'm very curious to go onto their TikTok and see what kind of content a comic book publisher, or whatever you would consider that, is putting out on TikTok. That sounds interesting as all get out.
I'm just looking at all the pretty pictures on their website right now. I heard everything you were saying, but I'm just looking at all the pretty pictures.
That's completely valid.
Oh, this vampires one is like vintage. It's like old school. It looks like there's the muddy general guy from Fearless Dawn that she was talking about. Whoa, this looks like an evil. What was the remember in Disney cartoons there was the Goofy, but there was like the bad Goofy? What the hell was his name? I don't know how to explain it, but there's some crowdfunding for Frank Fort limited edition fine art prints that looks very Disney, early Disney inspired. This looks kind of cool.
Gotcha.
You guys go ahead and close out the show. I'm just looking at pretty pictures. Go ahead.
Well, why Clint goes down that rabbit hole?
Now that we're all getting distracted by the pile of comics that's sitting in front of us and all of their social media.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the I Like It Spooky Horror podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Check back next month for more Indie Spotlight. What else? Pure Macabre every other week.
Yeah, Mishmash is every other Saturday from Pure Macabre, from me, Leah Stalker.
Leah, I gotta tell you a story.
Yes!
Sorry, I'm looking at the artwork. So I went to Screamer's Costumes yesterday. Took my daughters with the intention of going through the museum. Unfortunately, the museum was closed because they're adding a serial killer wing, and it's going to be opening back up sometime early August. But I still spent way too much money when I was there. But when I was getting rung up, the lady that rang us up, I wore the I Like a Spooky Horror podcast t-shirt in there. And I was talking with Tim and Renee and stuff, and then was getting rung up, and I should have asked her name so I could say it on the air, and I didn't realize that until I was like 20 minutes home. She looks at me and she goes, "Yeah, I just listened to you guys' latest episode, came out last Saturday." I was like, "Oh, you listened to Mishmash?" And she was like, "Yeah, I love listening to that show, so I find out what's going on and stuff like that."
Oh no, that's so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
I thought you would enjoy that.
Oh, I'm so delighted. No, I love that. And I do go to Screamers now and then. I haven't been for a while. I really, really need to go. Tim and Renee are amazing. But that's so sweet. Oh, I'm blushing. That's very, very sweet. Shout out to Screamers Costumes and to her and everyone there. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Shortly after that, I went, I was like, she's cool and that stuff's cool, but you should really listen to... No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that.
I will be honest, I do that where I'm like, yeah, I do Mishmash, but you should listen to the main feature episodes every other Sunday with the Spooky Boys.
If you think about it, we kind of have something going on like Asylum Press. We have created our own universe of stuff. It's not just one offering. And if there's one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is if you're new to the show or if you're a fan of any of the content that we put out and you're wanting to talk people into, hey, you should check this out and this is why. This isn't an attaboy moment, but I think this is something that we offer. You guys tell me if you agree or not. What I think is interesting about everything that the three of us together offer with the different shows, even if you just listen to the flagship show, just one episode. It is not one-dimensional. One of the things that I really pride myself in is that, like I said, just a flagship show. You can listen to any episode, and it's not just that we rate a movie. I mean, we're talking about the movie, we're talking about the theaters, we're talking about directors, we're talking about comics, we're talking about conventions. I could go on and on and on and on and on. So much like Asylum Press has something for everybody, much like Screamer's Costumes has something for everybody. I'm very proud of all of us because I feel that we do a lot to put something out for everybody.
I absolutely agree with that. I do think that there is something for everyone, even just honing in on indie spotlight right now. Last episode, I was discussing a horrorcore rapper, and now here I am talking about a comic book, you know, like just speaking of me personally, but for everything. It's just, we cover all gambits, and it's all opinions, and we all have very different styles. So I do like that there is something for everyone.
And then potentially the next episode of Indie Spotlight will be the first interview on Indie Spotlight. Still putting that together. So anyway, I hope I didn't make anybody throw up in their mouth. I'm not trying to sit around while we all blow each other. I just want to let everybody know. What, was that too harsh? See, there's something for everybody. Something for everybody. I just want to let you know that, if you're trying to bring people to the show, then bring them and say, there's something for you. I promise.
We even have something for Jane Levy fans. Until next time.
You motherfucker. Hey, did you know that Jane Levy was in Evil Dead 2013 and Don't Breathe and Office Uprising? I was just getting over that, and you brought it back up. You ripped the Band-Aid off, you son of a bitch.
I have never seen someone take so much damage in real time. The way that his expression fell from something so simple. I don't understand. You guys are going to have to explain the joke to me after the episode, but that was a kill shot right there.
I dropped the ball, and I'm being pretty harsh on myself about it.
Oh, don't do that. Don't be harsh on yourself. Be nice. Be nice to my friend.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.